Hello and welcome to Midwest Writers Room. Our mission is to encourage, educate, and celebrate writers of the Midwest. I'm Luella Schmidt.
And I'm Ken Humphrey. Today's chapter break episode features Julianne Lepp and her latest publication, 10 Year Spirit Mindful Living with Chronic Illness, which came out October 7th.
Julianne Lepp has a background in finance, game design, and massage therapy. She lives with rheumatoid arthritis and supports those living with chronic illness in many capacities. She has served as the parish minister of the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Eau Claire, Wisconsin since 2010, and trained with Meadville Lombard Theological School to become a spiritual director.
Hmm, that's quite the list of accomplishments there. Let's take a
Yeah.
look at the book itself. Here's a synopsis. A powerful spiritual companion on your journey through the seasons of chronic illness. Living with chronic illness has many challenges, and the journey is not just a physical one. Tend Your Spirit is a companion for this emotional and spiritual journey, offering tools to help readers practice self compassion and self care. With candor and vulnerability, spiritual leaders Julianne Lepp and Florence Caplow, and themselves living with long term illness, offer insights and practices that can benefit anyone facing the emotional impact of a new or ongoing condition. Structured metaphorically around the four seasons, each chapter is devoted to a particular aspect of life with chronic illness, such as grief, hope, perseverance, anger, comfort, and finding connection. Interviews and quotes from people with chronic illness of all ages and backgrounds help readers feel less alone. Spiritual resources, including poetry, practices, meditations, playlists, journaling exercises, and discussion questions, offer additional guidance. Small groups can explore these resources together to help foster relationships and community. Tend Your Spirit is intended for people at any stage of their journey with chronic illness or chronic pain to help you live a full, spiritually connected life, a life informed and shaped, but not defeated by your illness.
That sounds amazing. We're so lucky to have you here, Julianne. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
You
Yeah,
bet.
thanks for coming on. So let's dive into this. Um, I think it's pretty clear where the origin of this book came from just by reading the synopsis. But can you kind of identify when this crystallized into this has to be a book I want to write?
Sure. Before I experienced or was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, I was an average 40 something mom, active with my kids and took martial arts and very able bodied and able to do all the things that you want to do to live a full life. And along came the pandemic, and like many people who were in helping professions, the stress of dealing with caregiving, our having to take our congregation remote, learning how to do things. The first service that we had, I did a Facebook live stream, and my kids helped me from my living room. So it was like DIY, learning how to record videos and just a community of over 270 people trying to keep them together during one of the highest stress levels of our nation or the world. And so, like many people who were caregivers during this time, I had an onset due to stress of an underlying illness. And so in March of 2021, suddenly I couldn't lift lift things. I couldn't uh, do basic things like use scissors. I couldn't walk upstairs, and I just had really crippling pain. And so I was pretty terrified. And I went to the doctor, and they said, let's get a blood panel. And I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So, like many people, I went online and looked for answers and went to our UU ministers forum, like many professions have. And I said, "Hey, is anyone else dealing with this?" And that's how I met Florence. She is someone who's had other chronic illnesses over the years, but kind of coincidentally, she was diagnosed around the same time. And we had very similar experiences, and so we started supporting each other by weekly calls, Facebook messages, comparing medications. I would be calling from my car in tears, throwing up out the window because of these horrible medications. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." I don't know what I'm doing. And so it was just such a gift to have someone who knew what you were going through. And as we both had better health outcomes with, over time, with medication, with support, and with a just with time, we realized that there isn't a lot out there like a book like this, and so we really wanted to have something that could support other people. And so one time I just was talking to her. I said, we need a book. We need to do a book. We've really been through a lot together. And she said, let's do that. And so that's how it happened.
Wow, that's pretty fortuitous. I mean, just to run across somebody who has, similar, constraints in their life as you, and then to actually dive in together to write a book. So, writing a book with a co-author, lay it out for us. What was that like? What are the pros and the cons?
Well, being people who lead congregations and try and help people be their best selves, the first thing we did was make a promise to each other how we would treat each other. Because, when two authors that are living with up and down health, it's you can get stressed out, with deadlines and things like that. So the first thing we did was to define how we would treat each other and how we'd be kind to each other and how we would hold each other accountable. And so the second thing we did was we went on a retreat together and spent a few days. And she did everything with spreadsheets, which was totally not my style, but I was very excited about because it was very clear. She said, let's line this out. And so we divided it up into 4 seasons. We thought about the seasons of our lives and how the ups and downs of our emotions. And then eventually we divided it up into 4 different emotions within each season. But writing with another author can be a real gift because they'll see things you don't. She's a great editor. And you can each have your own gifts when talking to the publisher. And, she was very good about, she was more engaged in kind of fighting for what we wanted. And I probably would have been a little more timid about that. And it really helped us get a lot of the type of graphics that we had in our, we have a full color novel. There's graphics and also art within the book to help it be more accessible for people who are living with pain. They don't want to read block text. And it's just nice to have someone. I'm a social person. I like writing groups, and I like being with people. And so it was just nice to have someone to go through this journey together.
Very cool. Now, our watchers on YouTube probably didn't see this when Julianne was talking, but as soon as she said spreadsheets, Luella's ears just pricked up off to the side because now you're speaking her love language.
It's true. I gave a quick side eye to Ken to see if he was looking at me when you said spreadsheets. I think it's really, this is not the first time, Ken, that we've talked to a writer who, was going through something and put it in a book. And, I'm assuming that some of that writing process itself was maybe also therapeutic if, the two of you doing that together. Do you want to maybe talk about that for a little bit?
Sure. Part of the thinking about what emotions to put into the book, for instance, in fall, we have themes of letting go, grief and compassion, anger and pain. And then you think about winter and you think about isolation, having the strength to get through winter, comfort, there's cozy, hygge, if I'm saying it right, type things that we do, and fear. In the spring, we have hope and caregiving, and anyway, lots of different emotions. And best of all, in summer, we have rest, beauty and bliss, play and joy. And then the final part was acceptance. And so within each of those sections, we divided them up. Like I said, she was very organized, and we each took 2 chapters within a section, and we would interview someone, which gave us a chance to hear someone else's story within that, and then we would tell our own story. And so you'll see within the book it says Julianne's story or Florence's story, and yeah, to get it out of your own head or your heart and put it on paper, you go, oh, I this is hard, or this is great. Whatever you get to see it with some clarity, and then to edit it and to play with it and see it in print. And even reading the book, I had forgotten some of the things I said, and I thought, oh, that's good. That's good to see in print, and it kind of validates your experience. And people who've read the book have said that they feel seen and heard, and you can't ask for more than that, and that is helpful. And so it's really made to be where you could turn to any section and find what you need, hopefully. And
Yeah. I just think I love it. The idea of sort of your difficulties and going through them and putting it into a book or into writing of some sort, and then that writing helps others. And I think that's actually kind of that's just a cool thing that we have seen repeatedly on this podcast. So let's talk a little bit about how you published the book. As we were reading the synopsis, as Ken was reading it, you mentioned there's poetry and there's journals, and it's not block text, which I understand would make some publishers nervous to lay that all out and to do the color, as you said. Can you tell us a little bit about how the book came to publication?
sure. The My co-writer had previously known an editor, and so and she also had other previous publishing experiences, and so we created a proposal in 2 chapters. Once we had laid out that lovely spreadsheet, we picked 2 chapters to go ahead and write ahead of time. So unlike fiction I've written, we didn't have to finish the book before we pitched the book. And so for this proposal, we sent in a synopsis and what we wanted to do with the book, and then these 2 chapters. And so they reviewed it, they accepted it, and then the harder part was explaining what we wanted, because there isn't really anything quite like it out there, because it's got sticky notes, it's got playlist, it's got all these little sections, mindfulness tools, journaling, and so it's meant to be as much a workbook as it is a resource. And we also wanted, people want inspiration. There's beauty, there's in the poetry and in the stories, and just ways to kind of heal your spirit when you're going through a hard time.
Great. Any struggles with getting it published along the way, or things you had to kind of backtrack, or tell us about
I
that?
think towards the end, the initial the relationship was really good. We were very fortunate to have an amazing editor who also understands chronic illness, and we had just a lot of support. There was Getting the title was, a negotiated process, and that I think for many authors that can be very stressful, but luckily we came to an outcome, and I love the cover. Seeing the cover art, made us thrilled. But the hard part was kind of the final edits and the final, what stays in, what doesn't, what does the font look like, what does the graphic art look like, and really trying to communicate our vision and what is possible. But they were very kind. I mean, they gave us a lot, and I deeply appreciate it. I think it made a difference, and so it was a good experience.
Great.
And
All
so
right.
yay, Skinner House Books.
Yay. Thank you. All right. So, whenever you're ready, then we'll turn to the reading. And Julianne is going to read about 5 minutes from 10 to Your Spirit, Mindful Living with Chronic Illness.
Yeah, I'm going to read from the initial first chapter, which is Fall, and that section that is called Letting Go of Ego and Certainty. And this is Julianne's story. I'm a youngest child, and as youngest children tend to do, I struggled with finding my identity and place within my family. One of the key identities that I claimed was strength, I was a 70s kid who grew up in the South, and my role models were Wonder Woman, Charlie's Angels, and Laura Ingalls Wilder from Little House on the Prairie. I wanted to be a strong, capable girl, not dependent on any boy to save the day. At the skating rink in 4th grade, I remember gleefully arm wrestling one kid after another. Who had time for skating backwards when you could win arm wrestling competitions? Being strong and capable developed into a core part of who I wanted to be. I started restaurant work at 15 and worked 3 jobs during college. And in those jobs, I was always the one who was asked to open jars. It was a matter of pride that I could twist open the jar that no one else could open. In my jobs or in my personal life, capability and strength were one way to show that I could take care of myself. In my late 20s, I eventually became a massage therapist, and my hand strength became signature for the deep therapeutic massage that I offered. I had my own massage practice for over 10 years until I became a full-time minister. In the heart of the pandemic in March of 2021, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I had a strong onset of crippling pain in my hands, along with increased swelling in my feet. And I found it difficult to do many of the daily tasks that I needed to do, and struggled with the stairs in my house. As a minister, I was concerned with keeping up with my responsibilities and learning how to function through pain. During one of the scariest and most stressful periods of my life, a lot of physical capability and strength were stripped from me. Besides the pain and discomfort, I was surprised by the emotional loss I experienced with this sudden change. I felt bereft of capability. Even a year and a half later, I found myself miffed at the dinner table when my 16-year-old son was the one who could open the jar of spaghetti sauce. The next day, I needed to recruit his and my spouse's help to get the garden and yard ready for winter. Late fall is unpredictable in Wisconsin. Winter can come hard and fast, whether you're ready for it or not. I had intended to help put away the garden furniture, pots, and soil, but I found I had no energy left for it between full-time work and parenting. When a hard snow fell, I felt like a squirrel caught before gathering all of my winter provisions. Luckily, 2 weeks after the snow, we had a Saturday with temperatures in the 40s. I was able to work with my son and spouse to put away the outside furniture and prepare for the bitter cold to come. I am learning to accept help with grace and more gratitude, letting go of certainty, letting go of ego, letting go of the idea that I must be strong and able to control my days is a central part of my process in living with chronic illness. And finally, I'm going to close with a poem that I wrote. Many people get gold stars when they're little kids, and they put them on their shirt and come home with them. With our theme of trees and seasons, I wrote a poem called Gold Leaf, and that's a point within the book. You get a gold leaf when you do something nice for yourself. We are the sum of our accomplishments, are we not? Counting our worth by degrees, achievements, and the glory of our completed tasks. This need for achievement clings tightly, like constricting saran wrap left on too long. Each call, each task needs that gold star, especially on days like these. Days where I can only wear soft socks, and ice is my closest friend. Nights when sleep is impossible, doing tasks in the wee hours of the morning, and catching up on rest. And doing tasks in the wee hours and catching up on rest in the morning. Can I keep down food while adapting to this new medication? Did I catch all the details in the last call? Some days there is energy and joy and movement. Other days my illness is like some invisible intruder, stealthy and unpredictable. On days like these, I can't keep on pretending nothing has changed, any more than a tree can hold on to its leaves in the fall. My bare branches are showing. My body is telling me it's time to adapt. What if I shed the tight bands of success and gather the leaves of change about me, glorious as a tree in autumn, with orange leaves for compassion and complexity, yellow for caution and care, and brilliant red for joy in the moment, celebrating beauty as it comes. I am not done with my changes, and change is not done with me. I'm learning to rest in uncertainty, to accept changes I cannot control. A gold leaf is my new gold star, and it is enough for me.
I I could really relate to the idea of having to let go of certainty and the ego that we have involved in our achievements and completed tasks. Man, do I love my completed tasks. And I could really just empathize, I guess, with what a dramatic life change that is. And
Yeah.
it's really lucky that people have a resource like the one you created.
I have a problem with the saran wrap part. I don't understand saran wrap. What is the purpose of it? It only sticks best to itself. I've never successfully yet used saran wrap. I don't know why we have it if we have tinfoil. Anyway,
That's
that's neither
fair.
here nor
That's
there.
fair.
I'm like struck speechless by that. Okay, so tell our viewers where they can find your book and where they can find more about you.
Sure. Our book is available anywhere that books are sold, and it is available on Kindle as well as in paperback. It's called Tend to Your Spirit, Mindful Living with Chronic Illness, and written by Julianne Lepp and Florence Caplow. We have a website, Tend to Your Spirit Info, that has information on upcoming events and author bios. The cool thing about working with Florence is not only is she a Unitarian minister like me, she's also a Zen priest. We have a very interfaith resource within this book, and also hopefully accessible, whatever your beliefs might be.
All right, very good. And I know we're recording this a couple months after the book has already been out, but do you have any events or appearances on the docket?
I have an event upcoming at the Chippewa Falls Public Library in February, and that is, I just had a book reading up in at Honest Dogs in Bayfield, but the one in February is at the Chippewa Falls Public Library.
You said you post those on your site.
Yeah,
and
there's
we'll list your
upcoming events on the website, so we'll have those updated, and yeah, hopefully be seen in local bookstores and libraries and maybe book festivals. We'll see.
Okay, I want to thank Julianne for taking time to come on and introduce everybody out there to her newest book, Tend to Your Spirit. I want to thank everybody for listening to the Midwest Writers Room. I'm Ken Humphrey.
And I'm Luella Schmidt. Words ignite imaginations and spark change. Never underestimate the power of storytelling.
Midwest Writers Room is a production of the Wisconsin Writers Association. Writing and editing by Luella Schmidt and Ken Humphrey. Sound design and editing by Ken Humphrey. Music for the Midwest Writers Room was written by Michael Ramir C. For more information, please visit wiwrite.org/podcast. Thank you.